You lollygag the ball around the end. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. You know what that gets you. Hurry.
Lollygag.
Lollygaggers.
There's chocolate all over this ball.
Look, Mr. Buttermaker, quit bugging me about my food. People are always bugging me about it. My shrink says that's why I'm so fat. So you're not doing me any good, so let's quit it.
Hi, I'm Rookie Bobby.
And I'm Cal Naughton Jr.
We like to have a lot of laughs on the racetrack, but today we want to talk about something serious. Packs of stray dogs that control most of the major cities in North America.
I hate hockey and I don't like kids.
It was supposed to be a pep talk.
Look, I'm sure this will be a real bonding experience. Maybe one day, one of you will even write a book about it in jail.
You're gonna lose all your fancy foosball games, and you're gonna fail your big exam because school is
The devil? Everything is the devil to you, mama!
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
My God, they shot him!
That left you incredible nincompoop at the end of the quarter.
Hey, look, I don't know about you, but I believe if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. How you doing, everybody? Welcome in. Thanks for joining me here on the Man in the Arena today on the Your Turn side of the show. Before we go ahead and get started here on God knows how long we'll be here, but we'll give it a shot anyway, because this is the day to take actual live phone calls on a live radio show. That's something else that I'll announce here in a couple of minutes. I'll let you know before we move on. Don't forget, you can always hear the show live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You go to welcometothearena.com, and that's where you can see every show. And don't forget, you've always got that one little thing. It's like right here. There it is. You got to put it in there. Just subscribe if you would, and that'll be a big help as well. Don't forget, you go to all the audio podcast platforms, and the show is there as well. Subscribe, download, everything you need to do right there. You can find it. Oh, and by the way, something else that's sort of new that we tried to do this, or don't you love it when people in the business, you always say we tried to do this. No, I tried to do this several months ago where we took live phone calls on a show. And oddly enough, it was when COVID-19 started. And I did a nighttime show at that time and opened up the phone lines, and we went for about an hour and a half where people were always involved in it. I was shocked because people wanted to talk about where do we go from here. And that was sort of the whole idea, where do we go from here? And now, of course, here we are 6 months later, and we're still all trying to figure it out. So something else that we're adding here, we're adding, whatever, it all sounds good. It's all the broadcast side of things. The show is now live on a radio broadcast. This is something that I've been looking to do for a while to kind of test this out as I do the show live. Because if the show is live, why not get a chance to listen to it? Right now, you have a chance to do it on between Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and the rest. You can go there, but you've got to kind of figure it out through the video side of things. But now, what you can do is go to my website at edberliner.com. Go to Programs, the tab there. Click on Live Radio Broadcasts. And what you can do there is it has Real Player, Windows Media Player, a few others there. Click on that, and then you'll be able to choose the media player, and you can now listen straight just to the audio stream. Huzzah! How wonderful things are here in the technological age. So I'm going to see how that does. Because, as I noted, the idea here was to take phone calls maybe one day a week. Maybe we'll do it 2 days a week. I don't know. But for me, it's as much cathartic as anybody else because it's a chance to actually get to talk to everybody. And those of you who have known me over the years know that I swore a long time ago I would never take listener phone calls. And I didn't. When we did the press box about 1 million years ago in Miami, all we had was guests, and it worked perfectly. And after we did that and tried it, others tried it and said, wow, this is so new. No, we actually did it for 4 years, and we were the first ones to really do it on a national stage. And it worked because we had great guests. Okay, well, now, here on the Man in the Arena, I have started something called the Sports Reporters, which I did earlier this week, and it was 3 brilliant shows. Peter Golenbach and Hal Bach were on the show. Dennis Bernstein was here. Brad Sesmat was here. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubitz from the 940, the Defo show, 940 AM, the morning show, had them on, and they're all sitting up. If you go to Welcome to the Arena, the shows are still there, and I'm tweeting out pieces of that. But that was a great show where it was just 3 people who knew sports and all we did was talk sports. Well, yeah, we had some fun and some other things, but it wasn't political. And that sort of leads me to where we're going here. Because except for the occasional moment, I'm done with politics. And I've actually gotten several hundred emails and texts and things on Facebook saying, "Why don't you do politics anymore?" Because it's useless to get involved in a lot of these arguments. And actually, sports is a lot more entertaining because I think at this point we are just bombarded with so much politics that every now and then we got to have a break. So if this is going to be the break, hey, I'm all for it. But I will start out today's show before I open up the phone lines. I want to start off the show because I want to talk a little James Bond today. I want to talk some Gators, some Alabama, which has happened there. A tragic death today in the NFL that just kind of shocked me. The guy is so young. And I want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays as well because I think Peter Golenbach, who has written 40-plus sports books, and Hal Bach from the Associated Press, we all talked about that earlier this week. The Tampa Bay Rays are America's team right now. And they should be for a number of reasons. Look, it's not Dallas anymore. Who really calls the Dallas Cowboys America's team anymore? Nobody. And there really hasn't been a team that has sort of taken up that mantle, and there's a couple of good reasons. So we'll get to that as the morning goes on or as the afternoon goes on. What am I saying? Morning, afternoon? As the afternoon goes on, we will get to that. But let me start out with a story here that kind of speaks to a lot of the reason why I've pulled back from a lot of stuff on social media. And I really just made the decision last night, and I think there's a lot of other people who would do the same thing if you had it happen to them. There's a contact I've got on Facebook. And by the way, look, if you put things out that are public on Facebook, you should have no problem if you have your name put to it. Why not? I mean, it's public. Everybody can see it. So to me, that's the same as a broadcast. There's a contact I've had, Kathy Rhodes Chappelle, who is on there as a friend contact, whatever it is. And she put up a post that talked about how Facebook has stopped people from posting the Lord's Prayer. So she printed the Lord's Prayer. This is not religious, but this is about something else. I made a really dumb, stupid mistake. I'll call myself stupid on this one. I got involved in the conversation where I pointed out immediately, and I had the reference point there from factcheck.org, that it's not true. It's a lie. It's false. It's fake. It's never been, Facebook has never once said you couldn't put up the Lord's Prayer. And then, holy spit in the morning, I mean, the flood starts between Kathy and a couple of the contacts on her page attacking me, and I came back, and I for whatever reason, I was stupid enough to continue to get involved in the conversation. And when it was all over last night, I went back, and I pretty much deleted everything that was part of the conversation, except my initial point. Because I think that's one of the issues here with Facebook. Too often we get involved, we make a point, and then it's on and on and on and on, and it never stops. And by the time you're said and done, it only makes for bad feelings. So I have sort of made a pact with myself at this point that unless the conversation is fun, or unless I really know the person, there's a lot of people out there that I'm connected with on social media where we could get involved in a discussion like that and it would never turn ugly. But if it's just somebody like Kathy or anybody else, no, I'm just not going to get involved in it anymore because the conversations turn nasty. And at the end of the day, at the end of the night, does it really make any sense to get involved in that kind of a conversation? No. So, end of story, time out. I'm done on all that. I just can't do it anymore. So I thought, let's talk about some other things that are fun, or which are at least less argumentative, for crying out loud. Look, I made a huge mistake years ago when I decided to get into news, and I got hooked with a news organization that was biased, that was propaganda, and it was political, and it truly infected my soul and created something in me that I never wanted. And so I became more political. I'm still political. I could still have a great political discussion. But having it on social media is useless. So that kind of ends that right there, where I'm just not going to do it anymore because it's just not that much fun. It's not worth it. So we'll move on to other things. We will go ahead and from time to time, if you would like to get involved, there are the phone lines that are open now, 786-600-1733. You can dial in anytime, and I'll decide to probably take the call. Why not? It breaks the monotony here. But until we get to that point, let me just open this up to a couple of things here. And I did want to make sure to hit the Facebook thing out there, but a lot of it is sports today because the National Football League has once again been forced to screw with the season. And to me, this is an NFL season that has to have an asterisk next to it. And I know that Peter Golenbach called me out on this one. He said, you can't do that. We got to stop with the asterisk. To me, you have to, because their lax manner of dealing with COVID-19 has changed the overall competitive nature of football. Now the Atlanta Falcons have closed their facility down. So that's going to mean another rescheduling and another game that's having to go somewhere and another player that may have to miss a game. When you've got key players missing games and it's not because of an injury taken on the field, then you have a point where you have to say, look, the NFL made a huge mistake here, and what they've done is change the competitive nature of the game, the competitive balance of the game, if you will. And when you've done that, then the season isn't real. It's not what it used to be. And I've had people argue the daylights with me out of this and say, wait a minute, you have to do that. It's the same thing as if there was a strike. No, it's not the same thing as a strike. The strike was because a league and the players' union couldn't get together on a contract, and the league tried to screw the players out of what they really deserved. So the players had no other alternative than to take the bargaining strip and to take a hike. So this is not like a strike. This is an airborne pandemic, nature-made disease that there were, virus, if you will, virus and disease, that there were points out there to stop this. But as a nation, we didn't do it. So it's not like a strike. It's not like an injury taken on the field. But the biggest thing is the NFL has just continued to lie about this. And as I talk to a lot of friends of mine who still cover the National Football League, they will tell me, off the record and others, that the league is holding back a lot of results, that the COVID-19 testing is not as simple as you would be led to believe, and there are a lot of other teams that are hiding the results. But that goes away from just the National Football League. That goes to college football, because Baylor got hit with over 30 players that tested positive, and now you've got the University of Florida, 19 players publicly tested positive. And I've got friends of mine who cover the Gainesville scene and the Gators who tell me it is much more than 19 players. They're just doing that because they don't want to get hammered, and they don't want the fans and the parents and the boosters and everybody else to get all upset. So they are hiding a lot of the results. Whether or not they're doing it, look, that still remains to be seen, but I believe what I'm being told. Now we have Nick Saban, and this is the funny thing about Nick Saban. He's the guy who cut a wear your mask promo. If you haven't seen it yet, it's been on college football games where Nick is standing away from people and saying, wear your mask, do the social distancing. Obviously, it didn't work, because now you not only have Nick Saban that is tested positive, but the athletic director that is tested positive. So if you know that there's COVID-19 and it's abounding, and you have the possibility of catching it, should the athletic director not be staying away from the coach? Should the coach not be having some social distancing? Should there not be a mask protocol at Alabama to keep people from catching the virus? But now they have it. There's no reason to believe that anybody is telling us the truth when it comes to COVID-19 in the NFL or in college athletics. The NBA and the NHL got it right because of the bubble. Now, you can't do the bubble with college students. The NFLPA wouldn't go for it with regard to the National Football League, and that time has passed. You're seeing now where NFL medical directors are saying that a bubble wouldn't work. Well, of course it wouldn't work now. Guess what? Because it's too late. You can't do it. So my point is, and to me it's a great argument point. Peter Golenbach and Hal Bach and I got into it. Defo and Luby and I got into it on the show earlier this week. This National Football League season is a fraud, because of the fact that the pandemic has changed the competitive balance of the league. It has changed the competitive balance of teams, and it has done so when the National Football League treated it as no big deal early on, thus opening the door for teams to be changed, players to be changed, games to be changed. It's just not the same. We'll get to the Super Bowl. Don't worry about it. And you probably will have a packed house at the Super Bowl because the governor of Florida has decided to go ahead and Katie by the door, let everything go. So in that sense, you'll probably have a packed house in Tampa. How that's going to look and how that's going to play is going to be something entirely different because we probably won't have a vaccine by then. And even if we do, who's going to take it? 40% of the people? 100% of the people won't take it. That's my question to a lot of you. If you're listening right now, would you take the vaccine first day that it's out? Here it is. I got it loaded. All you have to do is take it. I guarantee you that there is at least half of you who wouldn't touch it. There's a lot of medical professionals I know who wouldn't touch it the first time out of the box. So that means that this will continue to go on, and we will continue to have more players infected no matter what people try to do. As far as baseball is concerned, they got out of it. They got lucky. Something must have happened right because in the early stages, the Marlins and so many wound up positive testing for COVID-19. But even there, I'm looking at an asterisk season because it's not a complete year. You can't, this is my point, you can't balance the 2020 season against seasons before when it comes to records, home runs, RBI, pitching records, whatever, because you didn't play 162 games. Now, the argument can be made, well, but there was a time when you only played 154, and there have been strike-shortened seasons. Again, strike-shortened seasons, not a pandemic. That's something entirely different. But even those seasons have to be marked with some sort of a not a complete season, and I think that the World Series in those years are cheapened as well. Because if you don't have the competitive nature of 162 games to fight for that positioning in the playoffs, then that changes everything. So to me, what we have, every team this year has got to be known, the 2020 season, as the asterisk season. And yeah, I hear all the people arguing about the Roger Maris years and all that, entirely different stories. So we have to have that. I don't see any other way that you can do it because it is not a complete season. This one struck me as being really unfortunate. Fred Dean, who played for the San Francisco 49ers and the San Diego Chargers. The man was only 68. He died of COVID-19. Fred Dean was a guy who never lifted a weight in his life. I don't think so. Maybe in college he did. But in the pros, this guy would hang out in the locker room smoking cigarettes. And then he would go out and he would beat the living spit out of any single offensive player that got in his way. He was truly one of the greats. And he dies at only 68 because of COVID-19. That, to me, is just frightening when you get to that point, that happens to somebody like that. 786-600-1733 if you want to join us on the phone lines and talk about anything that we've had here today, because the show goes quick here on an open line call and when I do a show like this, because I'm not going to sit here for 60, 90 minutes and do a show like this. You got to rip through it. Tampa Bay. Let's talk about baseball here. The Tampa Bay Rays are, without question, America's team. And look, this comes from a guy, I hate the Tampa Bay Lightning with an absolute, unbridled, non-sweatable passion. Because, as anybody who knows, I'm a hockey guy. Hockey is my first sport. Where it used to be baseball and football, hockey has really become my first sport. So I hate the Lightning. I hate them with respect because they're that good. So while I hate them, I have to admit that they are the best team in hockey. In the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, they blew through everybody. They were the best team. They were the better team, hands down. And if the Bruins would have played them, I have no doubt that the Bruins would have lost to them in the playoffs. And that hurts to have to say that out loud. But the Tampa Bay Rays are America's team. They can't hit their weight. They've got a lousy offense. They've got some great pitchers. They've got some people there that you wouldn't know the name of. Peter Golenbach brought this up beautifully, and you go back to welcometothearena.com. on the YouTube page, you can find the sports reporter's interview that I had earlier this week with Peter and Halbach, and he made the point. People in Tampa don't know who this team is. They don't know the names of these players. Most of them are completely foreign to the actual fans themselves. And if you look, Tampa Bay is not the best fan base in Major League Baseball. They play in St. Petersburg, first of all. They play in the worst stadium in professional baseball, the Tuna Can, which still to this day sits on the side of a toxic waste dump, and also where they had a lot of Native American artifacts that they still don't know if they got them all when they built this horrendous facility. It's a terrible place to see a game. But even the fans don't show up on a regular basis to these games. Why? It's uncomfortable. It's not a great place to go. You got to travel over to St. Petersburg. So it's not, and look, nothing against the fan base. If you love the Rays, I get it. But they're not a great fan base. Go look at the numbers. It will tell you that. And over the years, they've not been a great franchise. But look what they have done, putting fear into the New York Yankees. And for somebody who's not a Yankees fan, that to me means right up. I'll give them some credit and some chops for that right away. Because just simply to do that tells me that that's a hell of a baseball team. But that's America's team right now. It's not the Dodgers. It sure as hell isn't the Houston Astros, who are probably the most hated team in baseball right now. The Atlanta Braves, at one time the Atlanta Braves tried to have everybody believe they were America's team, and that's because they were on TBS and the Superstation. But most people, again, probably don't know who this Atlanta Braves team is. But if you take the grit, if you take the guts that have been put forward by the Tampa Bay Rays, this is America's team and what they're made up of. Am I rooting for them? It's another story altogether. I mean, right now I'm sort of shopping through the baseball playoffs. I like watching them, but I can't get personally involved for whatever reason. And if I do watch games, I'd love to see the Dodgers get into the World Series. I'd love to see Tampa Bay get into the World Series. A Dodgers-Tampa Bay World Series to me would be the best World Series. And I know Atlanta fans are going to be all upset. My buddy John Fricke in Atlanta is going to be all upset that I said that out loud. But it's just the way I feel, that would be the most fun World Series. Let's go there. One other thing on sports before I move on to a couple of other things here. How do I say this without offending a lot of people? I'll offend people anyway. It doesn't help. It's okay. I said that earlier in the show. I noted that at least. A lot of my friends and a lot of the followers are University of Miami football fans. I get it. But you got to back off on the chest thumping for this team right now. The University of Miami Hurricanes are a good football team. Closer to average than anything less, because of years of neglect and years of bad decisions. Are they getting better? Sure. Is Manny Diaz the guy? We're going to find out. But I hear people talking about the Canes, about how great they are, how they're a powerful team. No, they're not. Let's back off, enjoy the team that you have for right now, and understand that it's still going to take some time to rebuild this program. And I think that the jury should still be out on whether or not they're going to rebuild this program. Look, they're not the best college football team in the state of Florida. Not even close. I mean, I know Miami fans are happy right now that they can hammer away at Florida State because that program sucks. They've had their own problems right now. They've been eviscerated because of bad coaching decisions and bad personnel decisions. The Gators right now, the Gators are a better football team, but are they much better? Probably not. And, of course, they've got a head coach that, quite frankly, couldn't care less if one of his players or 20 or 30 of his players or 6,000 people who go to Florida Field wind up sick due to COVID-19 because all he's worried about is competitive nature, his contract, the money, and winning games. Something else I didn't get to. Dan Mullen needs to be reprimanded and punished by the University of Florida for his reckless attitude towards putting 90,000 people in the seats. Are you going to fire him? No, of course not. And there are some people who have said you need to fire this guy. It's not as if his program has done great things on the field. They're better, not what Florida fans want, but for the reckless and careless nature of his attitude towards 90,000 people in Florida Field, yeah, I'd find a way to reprimand him, punish him, something. I don't know what you can do, but I think something has to be done because, quite frankly, if I was a parent, I wouldn't let my kid anywhere near Dan Mullen. I wouldn't let him get close because I know, quite frankly, that Dan Mullen wouldn't give a damn about my kid. All he would care about is the competitive nature of the games and how many games we win. Okay, I get it. A lot of you out there are really just insulted by the fact that we don't think wins first, that we're thinking about health of players first. I get that. If you want to do that, that's fine. Not for me. Then again, I'm not the parent of anybody who's going to be playing for Dan Mullen anytime soon, but if I had a kid, wouldn't let him close. And if you're going to go put 90,000 people in that swamp during a game, during the pandemic, look, I said recently, and I've made this a promise. I wrote this on Facebook and on all my social media, and I made a promise. I am never's a strong word, because we always wind up as human beings, we wind up backing up on this. I am going to try as hard as I can not to call someone stupid. I can call a decision stupid, okay? But I don't want to call anybody stupid. I can call them thick-headed, dull-witted, foolish, arrogant, a lot of other things. But I'm trying not to use the word stupid and get away from them. However, it is a stupid decision to be at Florida Field at this time to pack it with 90,000 people. That's the decision in and of itself. Okay, two things today, non-sports, that I did want to get out. And there used to be in sports talk radio, when you wanted to get people calling, you would say, Pete Rose doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Boom, drop dead. Phones would ring off the hook. You would have, that would be one of those things. My buddy Larry Bluestein knows it. Stu Opperman knows it. Jeff DeForest knows it. Anybody else who's been in radio for any length of time knows it. You have those things that are always handy, where if you say them, you know that you're going to get phone callers. It's sort of on those nights where you're bored. And nothing's happening. And those were in the days when you had to light up the phones. Now it's about how many tweets do you get, how many retweets do you get, how much interaction do you get on Twitter and Facebook and social media. But back then it was all about how many people you could get to call. And that's how you were graded as a talk show host, which of course was stupid, because everybody who's anybody who knows anything about talk radio knows it. Out of 100% of your audience, less than 3% of the audience ever pick up a phone and call. And out of that 3% of the audience, at least 50% of those are chronic repeats that will call over and over again simply because they want to hear their voice. And a lot of it on the sports talk radio that I listen to right now, and I listen to South Florida and other places, I listen to it online, those that do take phone calls, it's the same crap over and over again. It's the same nonsense, and a lot of it are fantasy league players and gamblers looking for tips. I'll get on the fantasy league and gambling another day, which is a conversation I had with Defoe. So caller-driven radio is nonsense. When you have people who want to call, like we do on this show, if you want to call and talk about something, fine, let's go ahead and do it. But just to drop the nonsense of things like Pete Rose needs to be in the Hall of Fame, boom, go crazy. This is one of those things. This is one of those things that I know on social media, if you start this conversation, automatically you'll get a tremendous reaction. And I did it today, not because I was trying to get any sort of reaction, but because it's just something that caught my eye. The new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, is now not going to come out until next year because of COVID-19. And the Broccoli family, Albert Broccoli, that the production company that owns the rights to James Bond, said today, without question, today or yesterday, without question, 007 will never be a woman. Absolutely, undeniably, completely, without question, agreed. 007 has no right being a female. Now, if you want to put a strong female character in there, go right ahead and do that. But nope, no way. First of all, James Bond is never a female. Never. Never, never, never. James Bond is also never an American. Never. James Bond will be British, whether it's Scottish like Sean Connery was, but if you're British, UK, have to be. It doesn't make a difference if James Bond is white, black, blue, green. Color makes no difference. But James Bond is a man, James Bond is British, and that's it. Now, start another argument, and this is another one of those that absolutely gets people lit up right away. Is the best James Bond? Because the graybeards out there will always say, it's got to be Sean Connery. Sean Connery is not the best James Bond. He was the first to make his mark in film. Wasn't really even the first. I'm trying to think of the name of the first. There was a guy who first played James Bond on British TV, and I think there was an American television show as well that had James Bond at the time. But Sean Connery was the one that made a huge impact on it, and he is known forever. It took him, and Connery hated James Bond. That's why he got out of it, but came back to do Diamonds Are Forever because they offered him an absolute spitload of money, especially after the disaster that was on Her Majesty's Secret Service with George Lazenby, who's a nice guy. He never stole a freight train, but he couldn't act his way out of a box. The plot was good, but the movie was terrible. But it did have Diana Rigg in it because that in itself saved the whole thing. You have Mrs. Peel in it, gorgeous, wonderful, great. We all know that. God rest her soul. But Connery is not the best Bond if you look through the movies and watch the acting. Because then you had Connery. A lot of people like Roger Moore, and I was never a Roger Moore fan. He was okay, he was nice, but women loved Roger Moore. But if you look at the movies for Roger Moore, those were the worst James Bond movies ever. Moonraker. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head. I know Moonraker was in there. Live and Let Die, which, except for having the Paul McCartney theme, was a terrible film, especially when they put the sheriff in there, whatever he was. He was like a knockoff of Jackie Gleason's Rupert T. Justice in Smokey and the Bandit. That was terrible. But the Moore movies, Moonraker, awful film, terrible. Bad. Christopher Walken, terrible actor, terrible villain, and he was in A View to a Kill. Another one, terrible. But then you got to Timothy Dalton for a couple of movies, and he was good. He was good. Pierce Brosnan, to me, was one of the best Bonds. Those movies were good, and Brosnan was exactly whom you would expect a Bond to be. He acted like it. He had the flair for it. And then, of course, we go to Roger Craig. To me, if you put the movies together with the actor, the Roger Craig movies, Daniel Craig, I'm sorry, Roger Craig, listen to me. Yeah, we had a running back actually play James Bond. No, Daniel Craig. That's okay. I had football on the mind here today. Daniel Craig's Bond movies are the best of the bunch, without question. Quantum of Solace was a fair film. It was like a filler. But the movies thus far have been brilliant. Spectre is one of my favorites, without question. Casino Royale, great film. And I would consider him to be the best Bond. That's one of those arguments where if you open it up, everybody gets involved and everybody has an opinion one way or another, because Bond is just iconic in all those ways. So I do agree with the Broccoli family that never, never, ever, ever, never, ever, 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 ever is 007 a female. And ladies, that has nothing to do with being anti-female. It just has to do with the fact that James Bond is a guy and he's British. Never the twain shall meet. One last thing here, because this came up late and I wanted to get this in because they are rebooting Dexter. Dexter on Showtime was one of those series that and it was one of those early series where you had to get involved and never leave it behind. It was engrossing. You just couldn't stop watching because it was violent, it was dark, and David Michael Hall knocked that one out of the park with his performance in Dexter. I think it was David Michael Hall. I'm trying to remember the name of the actor. I think that was it. I'm not sure. But I lost track of Dexter, I think maybe after the 4th season. And friends of mine tell me that I need to go back and watch the remaining seasons. See, now I'd have to go back and bring myself up to speed from season 1, which is not difficult anymore. But I don't know well, probably no. Let me stop. The reboot is probably going to be a huge success because since Dexter, we have a lot of dark series and a lot of dark films and a lot of people who are getting into that sort of thing. So it'll probably be very successful. And to that point, I'll watch it. I know Lady Shannon won't watch it because it's not her kind of show. I get that, so I'll have to catch that on demand someplace. I have to watch it, but I'll do it. I'll give it a chance. Why not reboot it? I mean, look, I'm desperately trying to find something right now. We've gone through just about everything on the shows these days. The last one I saw that we saw was Nurse Ratched, which takes a little while to get involved in, but once you do, you can't leave it alone. It's like you don't want to look. Like Neil Rogers used to say about people who hated him. He said, "You hate me, but you're still going to listen to the show. You may hate it for the first episode or two, but you got to go back. You got to grab it." Anthony Michael Hall. Thank you. Karen Rickard just reminded me. Anthony Michael Hall. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Anthony Michael Hall is the other actor. Hold on. Anthony Michael Hall was in Weird Science. Wasn't he? See, I got to look that up now because I can't do it. I don't have my keyboard here, but there's David Michael Hall, Anthony Michael Hall. Anthony Michael Hall, I think, was Weird Science. So I'll have to go back and check that. Either way, it'll be good to see, and I'll definitely watch that. So we'll do this show on occasion from time to time on the live side of things. The one thing, though, I think that is really good for people who have listened to the show, and we are gaining an audience every single day on between Facebook and the rest, is the fact that there's been a call to try and do radio for a change here. So I want to remind everybody that there is now a live radio broadcast, and I say radio, but it's as close as you can get. There is a live radio broadcast of The Man in the Arena and the Sports Reporters and all the shows that we do on The Man in the Arena. Go to edberliner.com. Go to my website. Go under the tab that says Programs. Click on Live Radio Broadcasts, and that will then take you to a page, and there are 5 different ways to listen to the show on a live feed, a live stream. It gives you an opportunity to pick whichever app you want. I know that Reel is there and Windows Media Player is there. iTunes is also there to listen to it on a live shot. So thank you. Okay. My buddy Phil Montmolen got in here. Michael C. Hall. Thank you. Okay. See, Phil is a dedicated listener and viewer of The Man in the Arena, and he listens to Dave Lamont's show, and he catches all of them. He doesn't live here anymore. He left to go where it's cooler. Good for you. I'm going to come and stay at your house next time. But Phil DeMont, Michael C. Hall. Okay. And then there's his wife, the woman who played his sister on the show, then I think later became his wife, and she's been in a number of shows, and I cannot for the life of me remember her name off the top of my head, but I'll have to get that. So, reminder again that you can now listen to the shows, because it used to be in the past that you had to catch us live on Facebook or Twitter or Twitch or YouTube. Now you can go back and you can still watch the YouTube because everything gets posted up on YouTube. It will still be available there on welcometothearena.com. If you subscribe, hint, hint, you can know when the new show shows up. But now, if you go to that page on my website, download only the player. You really only have to do the player at that time. And then you can tune in when it's there because you put it up on an app on your smartphone. And then when we do go live, which you'll find out through Facebook and Twitter, usually, and I'm trying to make this a regular thing, we're going to try and do Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time, to make it something that you can always catch. But at least there you can always find out where the show is and you can always get the time. And now you can listen to it instead of just having to download it on a regular basis. Don't forget now, the Sports Reporters have been out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. Tomorrow, my buddy Joe Casal is going to join us for his Outside the Lines. We'll return to that. My buddy Larry Bluestein is going to come back soon. Randy Gordon, who's my buddy also with Randy's Ringside, that's going to come back as we try to expand a little bit of the programming here. But make sure that you catch him on the Facebook page, the Twitter page, and the YouTube page, because that will tell you again exactly what shows we're doing, when we're doing them, and basically who the guests are, because we'll always have promotions there as well. Thank you, Phil, for making sure that that we got everything right. Karen now comes in and goes, Phil's right. Phil's always right. That's the thing. Phil is like, he's the the font of information that sits in here at all times. So join us here. Keep the mail flowing. Keep those letters coming in on Facebook and all the rest. And the only thing I'm going to say today is not in a farewell, is not about COVID-19, because I think we all know at this point, be safe, keep your family safe, keep you safe. Here's my idea for today. Do not get involved in Facebook conversations with people who are just casual friends, because they spiral out of control so damn fast, and it makes you angry, and there's just no need for it. Second thing is, be like Ed for a change. I'm going to say that. Be like the redhead. I'll have to make up T-shirts of it. Be like the redhead. Stay away from politics. Stay away from, and I think we have this. If you haven't seen The Social Dilemma yet on Netflix, watch that show. It's a brilliant documentary. And I think what happens is, thanks, Phil. I think what happens is, at least with me as a news person, I did this. You see something and it's news. Let's post it, let's post it, let's post it, let's post it. Let's get it out there. No, stop. Because it's being posted by millions of people, the same news. And I really believe, honestly, that if we all spent more time going to the legitimate websites, what a thought, legitimate websites, and reading the legitimate news from legitimate sources that are actually sourced and looked at legitimately and reported on, if you just do that, which is what I do in the mornings, I go through them and I go through the websites and I look, and I will look at them all. Honestly. Well, no. Okay. All honesty. I look at CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, Fox, because I want a balance. I will look at those 5 right off the top. I will then look at Politico, because it's very balanced in their reporting that they put in there. I'll look at a couple of the newspapers, the Times, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Miami Herald, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Dallas Morning News, Chicago Tribune. Did I mention them? I will look at them because, while there is some bias in some areas, I'm getting a balanced effect on the news. And what I'm not getting is the Facebook pages and Twitter, Twitter is what it is. It's not just overloaded with people screaming, hollering, bellowing, blastering, bloviating about the news. And then it starts all these posts, that has everybody arguing, pissing, moaning, shitting on each other, quite frankly, which I didn't want to use today. I wanted to say defecating, but I had to go ahead and say it. And then it starts arguments, and then everybody starts to get angry. That's part of the problem. So how about my farewell to you today is, whether or not you want to do it, it's totally up to you. Stay away from posting the same nonsense on Facebook. Try it for a day. And don't get involved in the same political discussions and discourses every single day because it's up there and you feel you have to throw your opinion out there. Don't. Read about it, hold your opinion to yourself, and then we'll come back and we'll do this show on occasion. And we can talk about it here. Talking about it means more than just throwing it out there in text, because at least there's a two-way conversation and we can have a conversation instead of just spitting and moaning with text, which to me is where a lot of this has gone wrong in the first place. So hopefully, eventually, we continue to do the live shows here. People get interested. We will have those conversations. And I have been thinking about maybe even doing the live shows at night, which might be better to hit a larger audience instead of the daytime. So that's an outside possibility too. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, check out the Facebook page, the Twitter page, the YouTube page, Twitch, and all the rest. Catch the live shows of The Man in the Arena and the sports reporters and the rest. Joe Casal joins me again tomorrow, as I said. Join us at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time. Be part of it there. Be part of the texts, if you will, with regard to the comments that are involved. And watch the shows. Subscribe. Greatly appreciated. And greatly appreciate all the guests who are part of this as well. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for watching. Rock on, true believers. Until we meet again, which will be, of course, tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm Ed Berliner. See ya. Be sure to stay connected on social media with questions, comments, conundrums, you name it. It's at Berliner Speaks on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. A great place to talk business and learn a lot more about what we do is simply check us out on LinkedIn. Just go there and search out Ed Berliner. A reminder that every single episode of The Man in the Arena is uploaded to YouTube. Just go to welcometothearena.com, or if you're on YouTube, search out Ed Berliner Media. If you would prefer to listen to The Man in the Arena, every episode is available for download on all the major audio podcast platforms. The Man in the Arena is produced by Entourage Management, LLC and Entourage Media.